Hey, I want to take a couple of minutes and just tell you what God has been speaking to me about some of the events taking place in America and around the world. I heard the Lord very clearly speak to me several weeks ago and said, be ready. Demons, principalities, powers, the just the spiritual realm of darkness is about to start manifesting. And now I'm watching that happen. Much of the anger in government institutions, the protests that are happening, and the violence on our streets, and even some of the leaders around the world, like in North Korea, Syria, some of these conflicts that have escalated, a lot of this is the manifestation of evil spirits. They are upset and they are angry. They are angry because they know we have moved into a season, we the church, well, in the earth, but we as believers have moved into a season where we can experience great breakthrough. In fact, some of the breakthroughs that we have been crying out for and interceding for years, maybe decades, we are in a season where we can experience the fullness of that breakthrough. For example, the Supreme Court. Evil spirits are upset. And he actually took me to a passage in Joshua when Joshua and the Israelites were about to move across the Jordan and possess the inheritance that God had promised to them. Joshua, of course, sent the 12 spies to spy out the land, and when they came to Jericho, the spies encountered a lady, Rahab, who said to them, and I thought this was very interesting because this is the passage God took me to when he was telling me this. She said, "We are all afraid of you." And then she said, "Everyone in the land is living in terror, for we've heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea." And then she talked about, we heard how he judged the gods of Egypt. The bottom line was these people had been living in fear of Israel for almost 40 years. That's how terrified they were. And when the enemy grows insecure and fearful, he reacts. It's just like the Canaanites. They said, we better fight these people, and we better fight hard because God's going to give them this land if we don't. And that's what I think is happening right now. The Lord said to me, the enemy is very fearful. You don't need to be afraid. That's what he said to me. He said, tell my people, they don't need to be afraid. His enemies are afraid. And they're manifesting. What should we do? Number one, we should pray diligently for our government leaders. President Trump, our Congress, our leaders in certain State Department places like this. We need to pray for them because they're making some very, very important decisions right now, especially regarding Syria, Russia, the Middle East, ISIS, of course, but also North Korea has really intensified. I'm not alarmed by that, but I understand the seriousness of it. And what I feel like the Lord has said to me is pray for the overthrow, that this is a season that we should pray diligently for the overthrow of this evil regime in North Korea. I believe that in God's timing, we moved into a season where that can happen. I believe God wants to save those North Korean people. I believe he wants to reunify the North and the South. And I believe he wants enough stability in the earth that will allow him to bring forth the harvest that he has intended for this season. And he's not going to let a madman like this guy in North Korea stop it. I don't think God wants us to go to war, and I'm not saying that, but there are other ways he could deal with this man. He could just take him out himself. Or China could help us. They seem to be moving in that direction. Or there could be a coup from within, but I believe this is a season we should pray. Pray that this man doesn't do anything foolish and release any nuclear weapons. Pray that he's taken out first. Pray that God intervenes, and pray always and continually for the harvest. And pray again. Pray for President Trump and those around him that he won't make any unwise decisions. Pray for our military leaders, that no one makes any unwise decisions. Pray that they make wise decisions, and that we're all protected, that South Korea is protected, Japan is protected. Great harvest coming to these nations. Great harvest coming to Japan. I've seen for years, there's a huge revival coming to Japan. They're not going to be wiped out by North Korea. God's going to bring salvation to millions of them. But we need to pray that. So be at peace, but don't take anything for granted. We're not alarmed. They are alarmed. The enemy is alarmed. What are we going to do? We're going to pray. We're going to fight like Joshua, but we're going to fight with our spiritual weapons. And we're going to say, no, you're not going to win. God's going to win this thing, and we are going to possess the inheritance that He's giving us as a generation, which is this great harvest. So just to encourage you, don't be alarmed. Pray. This is a season of breakthrough. All right, thanks. God bless.